For 78 minutes, the dream felt like it was slipping away. The atmosphere inside Toronto Stadium was electric. Thousands of Canadian fans had waited years for this moment. A home World Cup. A chance to prove that Canadian football belonged on the biggest stage. A chance to create history. But as the clock ticked down, that dream was turning into frustration. Canada had controlled possession. Canada had created chances. Canada had pushed forward relentlessly. Yet Bosnia and Herzegovina were leading, and with every missed opportunity the pressure grew heavier. Then, in a matter of seconds, everything changed. A substitute stepped onto the pitch. One touch, one finish, one historic moment, and suddenly an entire nation was celebrating. The final score would read Canada 1, Bosnia and Herzegovina 1, but this match was about far more than a single point. It was about belief. It was about resilience. And it was about a Canadian team finally taking a step forward on football's biggest stage. Coming into the match, both nations understood the importance of the occasion. For Canada, this wasn't just another group stage game. This was a World Cup match on home soil. The expectations were enormous. The pressure was immense. The memories of previous World Cup disappointments still lingered. Canada had never won a World Cup match. In fact, they had never even earned a point in the men's tournament before. This was an opportunity to change history. Bosnia and Herzegovina arrived with a different mission. Their journey back to the World Cup had been one of persistence and determination. They entered the tournament determined to show that they belonged among the world's best. And from the very beginning, they looked completely unfazed by the atmosphere. The opening stages followed a predictable pattern. Canada controlled the ball. Bosnia stayed compact. The hosts tried to dictate the tempo through midfield, moving possession from side to side while searching for openings. Jonathan David looked dangerous whenever he received the ball near the penalty area. Richie Laryea constantly pushed forward from wide positions. The crowd responded to every attack with growing excitement. But there was one problem. The final touch was missing. Again and again, Canada built promising attacks only to see them break down at the crucial moment. The movement was there. The energy was there. The opportunities were there. The finishing was not. And football has a habit of punishing teams that fail to capitalize on their dominance. That punishment arrived in the 21st minute. Bosnia earned a corner. The delivery into the penalty area was dangerous. Canada failed to clear their lines. Jovo Lukic reacted quickest. The striker rose above the defense and powered a header into the back of the net. Suddenly, Bosnia and Herzegovina were leading. The celebrations from the Bosnian players told you everything. They knew how important that goal could be. Against a team carrying enormous pressure and expectations, taking the lead changed the entire dynamic of the match. Now Canada faced a new challenge. Not just breaking down a disciplined defense, breaking down a disciplined defense that had something to protect, and Bosnia were more than happy to protect it. The goal transformed their approach. The defensive lines dropped deeper. The shape became more compact. Every player worked tirelessly behind the ball. Canada continued to dominate possession, but Bosnia increasingly controlled the spaces that mattered most. This became the hidden story of the match. Possession versus efficiency. Control versus execution. Canada looked impressive in build-up play. Bosnia looked dangerous when opportunities appeared. As halftime arrived, the hosts found themselves trailing despite being the more active side. The crowd remained supportive. The belief was still there, but anxiety had started creeping into the stadium. Everyone knew Canada needed a response. The second half began with increased urgency. The pace quickened. The attacks became more direct. The pressure intensified. Canada pushed higher up the pitch and forced Bosnia deeper into their own half. Wave after wave of attacks arrived. Jonathan David came close. Richie Laryea nearly found the breakthrough. At one point, a goal looked almost certain. A shot slipped through the goalkeeper's legs and rolled toward the net. The crowd was already celebrating. Then, somehow, Sead Kolasinac produced a remarkable goal line clearance to keep Bosnia ahead. It felt like one of those days, one of those matches where the ball simply refuses to go in. Yet despite the frustration, Canada never stopped attacking. That persistence would eventually be rewarded. As the match entered its final stages, Jesse Marsch made a decision, a substitution, one final attempt to change the game. Kyle Larin entered the pitch. At the time, it looked like a routine change. Minutes later, it became a historic one. The moment arrived in the 78th minute. Promise David received possession and immediately spotted an opportunity. His pass found Larin. The striker controlled the ball, turned and fired. The shot flew into the corner of the net. The stadium exploded. The Canadian bench erupted. The players sprinted toward their teammate. After years of waiting, after multiple World Cup disappointments, Canada finally had the goal they desperately needed. And perhaps most importantly, they had hope. The equalizer wasn't just a goal. It was a release of pressure, a release of frustration, a release of years of expectation. The emotion inside the stadium was impossible to ignore. Suddenly, Canada believed they could win. The momentum had completely shifted. Bosnia, who had defended heroically for most of the match, now looked vulnerable. The final minutes became chaotic. Canada threw everything forward. Every attack carried danger. Every cross created panic. Every loose ball generated excitement. The crowd sensed that something special might happen. Bosnia sensed it too. Their defenders were forced into desperate clearances. Their goalkeeper was constantly under pressure. But despite Canada's relentless attacks, the winning goal never arrived. When the final whistle finally sounded, the emotions were mixed. There was disappointment because victory had seemed possible. There was relief because defeat had been avoided. And there was pride because history had been made. For the first time ever, Canada had earned a point at a men's FIFA World Cup. It may seem like a small achievement compared to lifting trophies or reaching finals. But for Canadian football, it represented progress, real progress. So what actually decided this match? The answer lies in two different strengths. Bosnia demonstrated remarkable organization. Their defensive structure frustrated Canada for long periods. They capitalized on a set-piece opportunity. They remained disciplined under pressure. And they showed tremendous resilience when the game became difficult. Canada, meanwhile, demonstrated character. They refused to panic. They continued attacking. They trusted their system. And when the opportunity finally appeared, they took it. The standout performer was undoubtedly Kyle Larin. He may not have played the entire match, but football often belongs to those who make the biggest impact in the smallest amount of time. One chance, one goal, one historic moment. Jonathan David also played a crucial role throughout the game, constantly creating problems for the Bosnian defense, even if he couldn't find the scoresheet himself. For Bosnia, Jovo Lukic's goal and the defensive leadership of Sead Kolasinac were instrumental in securing a valuable point. Looking ahead, this result leaves Group B wide open. Neither side gained complete control. Neither side suffered a devastating setback, but both teams learned important lessons. Canada discovered that they have the mentality to fight back under pressure. Bosnia proved they can compete with strong opposition on football's biggest stage. The tournament is still young. The biggest challenges are still ahead. But on this night in Toronto, history belonged to Canada, not because they won, not because they dominated, but because when everything seemed to be slipping away, they found a way to keep believing. And sometimes, the first step toward something bigger begins with a single point.